Okay, well, hello and welcome again to the Emerald Coast Medical Association podcast, Medical Mastery. I am, as always, your host, Don Davis. I am very happy to be joined by a friend, a physician, family man. I could go on and on with the accolades here, and we will at some point, but I'll keep them coming.
Yeah, thank you.
To Daniel, Skip, Dobby, thank you so much for being here on Medical Mastery.
Thank you.
Well, let's start off. We're going to cover a lot of different territories here in our conversation today. I want to start off with, where are you from?
So, ironically, I was born in Compton, California in 1963.
There's a Steve Martin joke here that I'm just going to hold off on, but either way, so Compton.
I know that movie, and yeah, that's so funny. Yeah. So anyway, he was in the military. Edwards Air Force Base was there, and moved a lot because of his career. And, I kind of remember Southern California.
Yes, it's a beautiful place.
Yeah.
We had a dear friend of our family that always said, California is absolutely amazing, except for the Californians. But everything else is absolutely amazing there. So
yeah, try not to be political, but I do understand. Yes, makes sense.
So you started off in California, moved around, had a peripatetic existence for a little bit of time. Now tell me about where you went to undergrad.
So ended up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Kirtland Air Force Base. My father retired there.
Okay.
So went to undergrad there, went to medical school there. Did a year of general surgery there, did 4 years of head and neck residency there, then went to LSU for plastic surgery, and then ended up in beautiful Florida.
Well, let's take a step back for a second. What did you study undergrad?
Chemistry.
Chemistry, okay. Did you have some sort of scientific bent in your mind, or were you kind of predestined to go into medicine?
So I thought I was going to go into chemical engineering, and
something smart. And instead, you chose EMTs.
Well, at the time, medicine was smart. It's a different world.
It is. So.
But and I think I got deflected. Honestly, I worked as a ski patroller, as well. That was my job.
It's such a hard life you have.
It was a pretty hard life.
It's terrible.
Well, I do school all day. And then I'd end up, there was a tram car that takes you to the top of Sandia Peak Mountain.
Okay.
And then my job was at the end of the day to do what they call sweep, where you run the runs to make sure nobody got hurt on the run and is going to freeze to death.
Oh.
So I could get up there early, study, and then sweep. And I met somebody on the slope. He was a urologist. He said, do you want to go to the operating room with me one day? I said, sure. So I went to the operating room. And the operating room is magic, not to get too esoteric, but...
Please do.
So you have a patient who needs surgery. They barely know you.
Yes.
You go to sleep. You're the most vulnerable you've been in your entire life. They make an incision in your abdomen. You put your hands in their body. And not to get weird, but you are entering an orifice that probably nobody's entered in their whole life. And your ability to help or hurt is profound. Psychologically, it's a profound moment. You do what you do, put them back together, sew them up, they wake up. And when I was in that position, I felt that thing I'm describing, but I hadn't thought through it with any level of precision.
Yes.
But over the next year, I thought about why that was such a profound experience. And so it's probably like a pilot flying his first jet. It is a high that you can't really unwind.
Right.
And it changed the direction of my life.
So, I do want to kind of focus in on that for just 1 second, because what you say is profound. When you are in the middle of procedures, when you are doing something incredibly invasive, there are some times that I allow myself that second of just taking a breath in the profound nature of what's really going on there, how vulnerable the patient is, how, we've got this combination and this concatenation of skills that has been added up over decades now that brings us to this moment to utilize all of our brain power and our physical ability to be able to hopefully impact some positive notion in terms of their health. And it can be a little overwhelming sometimes when you're in the middle of that, and just kind of take a breath in that moment and then kind of get back into the focus zone of doing the procedure at hand. So
Yeah, I think that physicians, patients, and society has minimized the amount of work and the importance and the danger and the excitement of what we do because it's become so mundane.
yes,
Everybody assumes everything's going to turn out perfect
Right.
every time.
right,
Well, among women of childbearing age, the most common cause of death in third world countries is having a child.
yes,
The most common cause in third world countries of children dying is dehydration. Nobody dies of those things in this country, or if they do, extremely rarely.
right, right.
And we do profound things, and it's just assumed that everything's going to go right.
That's exactly right.
And
Yes.
even we, as doctors, we embark on things we've done 1,000 times, and we do it over and over. And there are perturbations that have profound effects. And in those moments, I realize that we just assume and take for granted a great number of variables. And I remind myself and my peers that what we do is profound.
Yes.
You can't replace 10 years of study and hard work with 1 or 2 years on a computer.
Yeah, and there's also something to be said about this, and we're going to go back to your training here in just one second, but there's something about the humility of messing things up and learning from that experience. And I think there's this notion that, perhaps doctors may not mess things up, or they've gotten all that out of their system. And that's not really true. There are several times where things don't go according to plan. Now, the cardinal sin in medicine, as I see it, is not to not make mistakes. Of course, we're all going to make mistakes. It's to not learn from it. And I think we are some of the most profound learners from mistakes that you can have. We will take something and I'm never going to do that again. Okay, I'm going to be very leery about getting myself into that situation. And in that same idea, some wisdom that my dad kind of imparted on me, he's a pilot. I had asked him once about flying into bad weather and how you would navigate through that if there were storm clouds. He had just shot through some big thunderheads. And he said to me, Donnie, I can fly through clouds. I can fly through bad weather. I've done it before. It's so much easier never to get in there in the first place. And I have taken that wisdom into my career and said, look, when you get the opportunity to take a step back and say, what are our goals here? What do we really need to do here? Is this absolutely important? Are there better and safer ways we could go about doing that? And I think there's some profound nature to that. And I think
Right.
all that kind of amalgamates to, these are just some of the small decisions that we are making every single day while also trying to be somewhat normal people, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can remember a case I was doing, a cancer in the neck, and I looked at the CT scan and I'm operating and I realized the tumor is attached to the blood vessel that goes to the brain, the carotid artery,
Yeah.
and there's no real natural plane to cut it out. But if I don't cut it out, I put this person through an operation and they're not going to make it.
Yes.
But if I cut it out and make a mistake, they're going to have a stroke. Yeah. And not to mention the attorney side of the thing, which...
We'll leave that be for
we'll leave that be, but it's real.
It is real.
And in that moment, I was not very happy. The options were terrible. Right?
And you find yourself, what kind of mess did I get myself in here?
Right. Yeah. And afterwards, I thought to myself, how do I prevent that from ever happening again? And sometimes the answer is you can't.
That's right.
Life has risk.
That's right. That's right. We're not playing little games here. We're playing
Right.
big games on sometimes big stages.
Right.
So you studied chemistry in undergrad in Albuquerque. So then you went from there to medical school, same location?
Same location.
Okay, gotcha. Did you know at that point, it seems like surgery was beckoning you to come to its field. How did ENT come into play there?
So I did a summer program in a small town in New Mexico with a GP there who was the only doctor in that community.
doing everything.
He did
giving
everything.
birth.
He would take an appendix out. He'd deliver a baby. He'd treat the common cold. I mean, this guy. It was Silver City, New Mexico, and we sat down. Well, actually, we'd go to the golf course for 30 minutes before every work day.
like
He
a good
loved
doctor.
golf.
Yes.
And we'd hit some balls, and then I lived in the guy's barn and worked for 3 months with this guy. And he worked 7/24 and took care of the whole community. And I've got a million great stories about this man who had a profound impact on my life. But towards the end, we sat down and he said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Well, maybe I'd like to do what you do, because we're all influenced in the moment."
Yes.
He said, "Absolutely not." He goes, "The world is changing. Doctors like me will not exist." He goes, "You cannot deliver babies, take out appendixes, treat the common cold, treat a myocardial infarction, go to the ER." He goes, "It's going to fragment into multiple specialties, and you need to pick a specialty and you need to pursue that."
He was 100% right.
He was.
Yeah.
Well, he's a smart guy, doctor.
Indeed.
So I did my general surgery internship. Because that's what you did if you were going to be a surgeon. And so I thought, well, cardiothoracic surgery is great. It's split the chest open, you operate on the heart, you go on bypass, you have to understand all the, all the elements involved with going on bypass, and fascinating. So I spent a particularly large amount of time doing CT surgery, only to realize at that time there were only 2 operations, valves and bypass.
Yes.
And after you do that about 30 or 40 times, even though I was a young student and I didn't get to do a lot of it, I realized it's a bit monotonous for my blood. I'm thrilled people do it, but for me, maybe not so much.
Yeah, and perhaps this testifies to your personality, where you can get bored easily. Is that fair to say?
That is very accurate.
Yeah.
So I do all these rotations, and ENT seemed to me to be like family practice of the head and neck.
Yes.
We did preemies to death, every disease in that geographic part of the body.
Yes.
And it's complicated. You know, you got sense organs up there, everything from the brain passing down to the body. And it excited me, and I just naturally evolved into that direction.
Well, it has always struck me that ENT, and for my friends from medical school that went into that field, that ENT really covers a wide gamut of a really internal medicine-ish like specialty, where you are taking care of a lot of upper respiratory tract issues, sinus issues, things like that, all the way to very advanced head and neck surgery that is on the oncologic surgical side of things, and even on to plastics, which you may allude to here in a little bit. So that covers a real big gamut of things. For example, I'm not doing any surgery at all. I have to send that over to my colleagues. You are certainly treating the medical side and the advanced surgical side, and even onto the plastic side. That's a broad range of things to cover.
Which is why I love it. I mean, really, I mean, just listening to you, I had an epiphany that, probably it went all the way back to medical school.
Yeah.
But I do. I think it's a great specialty. And
yeah. Now, when I was coming through medical school, ENT, very challenging residency to get into. I assume it was just about as challenging then, especially once you start to include plastics into that. It's an exceptional. You have to be pretty studious to get in there. You have to show a fair amount of willingness or alacrity to take on challenges. And did you feel that when you were doing, say, your general surgery internship? Were you the one that said, I hate Q2 call because I miss half the cases?
Yes.
And that's part of why you get to where you are.
Yeah, I love work.
Yeah.
I love work.
Yeah, certainly don't shy away from it. So we go into ENT. Now, ENT is not general surgery. It's an entirely different world that you're dealing with, at least the surgical side of doing that kind of thing. So I think, for example, many in medicine perhaps know this, but perhaps some lay folks that may witness this are not necessarily familiar with. What's the longest surgery you've ever been in?
Probably 12 hours.
Yeah, 12 hours. Now, I want everybody to kind of soak in that for a second. That's 12 hours of intense, You're not worried about what you're having for dinner. You're not worried about what's your next vacation or anything. That's intense focus. That's hard to do if you're looking at a computer screen, much less when you are dissecting out various different nerves and blood vessels that course throughout the neck. And I want to say that this is something that, when you speak with otolaryngologists, that this is something that they do kind of semi-regularly, especially those that get really into the academic side. They're doing very long surgeries where you have to be on point for a long period of time.
Yes.
So you went through residency, finished that, and then decided to go into plastics. Talk about that.
So I was in my last year of residency. I was lining up my dream job, half my life at the university there and half in private practice. Both have good and bad, and that's a different discussion. Yes. But I walk in a room, and there was a plastic surgeon, and I had done a nose job on her because she had asked me to, and I enjoy it. Okay. And there was a bottle of wine and some flowers and a thank you card, and I loved it. Yeah. She loved it. I walk in the next room where I had taken care of a young man who had been caught up in a sting operation. Back then, one of the drugs was angel dust. They were manufacturing it, and he got shot in the face by DEA. And that happens.
As it happens, yes.
Yeah. So I had spent, 8 or 10 hours in an operating room trying to put things back together.
Yes.
He was upset at me. The person with him was upset at me. Half of their frustration was in Spanish, half was in English. And I sat and just tried to let them vent, understanding that I get their upset. And it, as you can imagine, it was a hard traumatic result. Yes. And I got up and walked out. And in the hallway, I thought to myself, people are going to kind of expect exceptionalism no matter what the circumstances are.
Yes.
And when I did the plastic operation, people were thankful. So in the moment, it was not a thought out decision over weeks, months, or years. It was an instantaneous decision. I walked back to the old-fashioned dictation room. I called up the president of the American Academy of Facial Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery in Louisiana and said, "Sir, I would like to do your fellowship."
Okay.
And that started the wheel rolling.
This also emblemizes something else, which is that sometimes in ENT, especially when you're going for traumas, you don't really know what you're getting into until you're kind of in the mix. And so to have these kind of pre-thought out notions, it's a nice game plan, but you got to go in there and figure out what's going on and then kind of try and dance out of that oftentimes. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay, so
yes.
So you moved from New Mexico to what city?
Shreveport.
A little place called Shreveport. I've heard of it. It's one place where I was born. Either way, the point is, so it's nice to see other people that made it out of there alive. So tell me about your training in Shreveport. How long was it? What was it like?
So I spent a little over a year there. Part of my role was as a fellow doing rhinoplasty, facelifts, nose jobs, those kinds of things. Yes. And my boss was very well known, so we got patients from all over the place in little old Shreveport. Yeah. And then I had a second job to support my first job, and that was being an attending in the Department of Otolaryngology at LSU.
Okay, yes.
Which I loved. I get up in the morning, round with the residents, impart wisdom, and learn perhaps more than I was able to impart. I'm quite sure I learned more.
Yes, yes.
Then go operate with my mentor, and then round with the residents in the evening. And then back in those days, as an attending, you had to come in for cases. So, I'd be up at all hours of the night doing trauma or whatever, and it was wonderful. And I love Louisiana. I love the culture, and I think LSU is a great place to learn. And
yeah, so there certainly is trauma, and when you can pull in from, this is one of the things that I try and impart to our medical students, you really do want that breadth of pathology, and you can usually ensure that you can get a lot more of that if you go to a tertiary referral center where you're going to get a lot of people that are coming to you. Now, you're going to see a fair amount of zebras in this kind of situation, but that's good for the kind of training that you can learn some of the bread and butter ENT. It's some of the rarer stuff that's going to be nice for you. So as a plastic surgeon, by the way, do you consider yourself a plastic surgeon? Do you consider yourself an ENT? How would you title yourself?
So when I got out, I had a decision to make. So I split the baby. Half my time, temporally, I spend doing just facial plastic surgeries. Nothing here down. And I love it. I suspect we do more facelifts than anybody in the county or in the area. And the other half of the time I do ENT, and I love that as well, and they're different and fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly varied.
Right.
Do you have your schedule separated out into individual days that you're going to do ENT and you're going to have a little bit more benign days?
I even have a line right down my office. Oh. And half that office
shall not cross if you are this other complaint.
Right. That is a fact.
So one of the things that's always impressed me about plastic surgery is that it's not just exquisite surgical skill that you have to have, microvascular skill and other things like that. You also have to have an aesthetic vision about what you think of there. So that takes a certain amount of artistry. And, there's an old dichotomy that we talk about, or an old kind of way of thinking of things about the art in medicine. This is even different than that. This is a true artist kind of vision of thing, about a platonic ideal for certain things. Do you find yourself have you always been artistically driven?
Well, no, probably more musically. Although saying that to you is a bit of a paradox because I know you're an expert at music.
Neither. So
trivial,
it's trivial music. That's different.
I mean, every human has a sense of beauty. Some of it we understand, some of it we don't. There have been studies that looked at objective beauty. There are objective parameters of beauty.
Yes.
There are cultural parameters of beauty. The parameter of beauty that I abide by is the purpose of life is to make more life. The selfish gene. DNA goes on through time.
Yes.
So everything we do probably boils down to making offspring.
Yes.
So when a man looks at a woman, his ideal woman is a fertile woman that will be a healthy mother to offspring.
Correct.
Men,
that's what his genes see.
That's what his genes tell him.
Yes.
I'm ignoring culture, because culture does have a role, but it's small.
It does.
Men are a little more complicated. I'm not going to go in that direction because we're mostly heathens.
Cut the tape, all right?
Yeah, we're heathens. But no, I mean, a man just wants to look healthy because women are looking for a healthy male that can give them healthy offspring and provide for the family. Right. So in terms of aesthetics, that's where we are. So I don't want a woman to look freakish. I don't want her to look like she's had surgery. I don't want her to even look like she ever saw me.
Yes.
But I want her to look like she fits the parameters of a healthy woman during the fertile years.
Yes.
That makes life very simple. And then going from there, it's all nuanced. For instance, some people, if you're Asian and you want your eyes done, you may want Asian eyes. Or you may want Caucasian eyes.
Yes.
And that's an issue of communication. That is simply sitting down and talking honestly and asking, what do you think you might like? And
of course.
And then for me to rein in the possibilities, because the internet's created this illusion that anything's possible. Anything is not possible. That's
well, I think this also alludes to another thing, just that guides me in my practice every day, which is that I think we have failed to look, at least over the past couple of decades, as patients are customers. We're really in the customer service business. And so I think having that honest discussion up front, look, I'm not here to judge what you want. I'm here to try and empower you to get you what you would like within certain physical limitations that we're just, unfortunately, we have to suffer through.
Well, jumping back to ENT and your profession, and really all of ours, Life is a sexually transmitted disease
Indeed.
that's always fatal.
Yes. 100%.
None of us are getting out of this earth alive.
That's right.
So it is about the journey. Nobody saves a life. We prolong a life. If I remove a tumor and you live another 20 years, I didn't, save your life. I just gave you more life, whatever that is. So I try to look at decisions on the ENT side in that light. The goal isn't always, the goal for a 19-year-old and a goal for a 91-year-old may be different goals.
Yes.
So to your point, you can't make a medical decision in an algorithm. It doesn't work. It's why AI will fall short trying to do what we do.
Yes, and we will get to AI. That's certainly something that I'm interested in because it does seem to be there's that human AI hybrid that might be a long-standing model, I think, for our species.
I would agree.
I would agree. Whatever that ends up becoming.
Yes.
And I could talk to you for a long period of time about the selfish gene and how our genes kind of govern what we do. We don't decide necessarily what's attractive. It just is attractive. We don't have much of a choice in that.
There was a study done. They took a bunch of photographs all over the world, and they had different cultures rank them in terms of beauty. And then they looked at the attributes of that ranking. A couple of things, and by the way, it was pretty consistent among all cultures.
Yeah.
Symmetry turns out to be very important.
I would imagine.
It's very objective.
Yes.
We don't see it, but when you pick a supermodel, the right side of their face and the left side are very close to each other.
Yes.
Also, things like the distance between the eyes. If you draw a bell curve, from 48 millimeters to 64 millimeters, they generally sit in the mean, median, or mode of that bell curve. Nose size, head size, all these different proportionalities and attributes can be objectified. And it would take too long to go through those. And I'm aware of those when I look at people.
Sure.
So I'm much more analytical when I look.
Yes.
Whereas if you're not thinking that way, you just look at somebody and you go, oh my God, she's beautiful. Right. And you don't know why.
You don't know why. Yes.
But I do.
Yes. Well, you've had to study it.
And then that is the difference. But all that knowledge isn't nearly as important as what the person wants and how their community receives them. So
when you are actually in these surgeries, are you taking out rulers? Are you measuring in certain places? Is there some objective measures that you're taking?
I used to do that.
Okay.
I quit because first of all, when I start, nobody's symmetric.
Right.
I don't want to take out the same amount of skin on both eyelids.
Yeah, except for me, I'm perfectly symmetric. But everybody else,
the left eye's
not
a little droopy. But whatever you're saying. But so my goal is to get them as symmetrically as I can when I'm completed.
Yeah.
There was a study done on ears that stick out, and we pin them back. It's one of the things we do. And one group didn't measure. They just did the best they could do, and they kind of eyeballed it. And one group measured. And then they asked patients, how happy you were, and they hit some critical number. And it turns out that eyeballing these things is way better because people's faces aren't symmetric. So maybe the ears shouldn't go back the same on both sides and you measure it. And the human eye, if trained, it's like, I don't drink wine. But if you drink wine all the time, you get very good at discerning what a great wine is and what not a great wine is, right? So if you do this a lot, you get a nuance.
Right.
When I was younger, I measured. As I've gotten older, I don't. I also find that measuring doesn't work. So if I'm lifting an eyebrow and I measure, well, pulling here doesn't have the same reaction here. It's not a one-to-one ratio.
Yes.
And different people's skin and musculature and so on and so forth is so different it doesn't matter. Or if I do a perfect nose looking at it, or even with a straight measure, put them back together and they heal and it's bumpy or crooked, part of that's God and healing.
Yes.
So I know that if it's thin skin, you're going to see right through it and you've got to treat it differently. And if it's thick skin, no matter what you do, the skin's never going to contract down to the bone. And different parts of the nose have different skin thicknesses. So it's not the straight because the skin down here is thick. It's thick up here. It's super thin here.
Yes.
So to get it straight, you don't really want the bone straight. You want it curved a little bit. And So you become much more sophisticated about nuance. If you're at a university, you write a paper on it and somebody reads it. If you're like me, you're too lazy to write the paper, but it's in your brain, right?
Right. You have some intuition that is
Yes.
certainly guiding you. That is maybe guiding your hands a little bit.
Yes.
And now, do you find yourself when you're in the middle of these things that you kind of enter into a flow state?
Yes.
Where your
Muscle
hands
memory.
are just kind of doing the right thing. You're not having to think about it so much. It's just kind of happening.
Yeah, when I'm doing a nose, one of my favorite things is if I'm filing, smoothing out the top of the nose,
Yeah.
I wet my hands, and my left hand feels and my right hand does the work, but my left hand's the important hand. Everybody thinks it's the instrument hand, but it's not the instrument hand. And I wet it, and I do it by braille. I don't even look, because I don't want to look.
Yes.
I can feel it much better than I see it, but we rely on our sense of sight so much that it takes, early on it took a conscious effort not to use my eyes, but over the years it now becomes natural. And I'm sure if somebody watched me, they'd say, why isn't he paying attention?
Yes.
But you don't just use your vision. You use all kinds of parts of your body to figure it out.
This is exactly what I talk to medical students about when they come to the cath lab for the first time, is that this is a symphony. There are all the things that you're paying attention to with your ears, smells, eyes, feel, your hands are going in the right direction. It's all happening, and a lot of it you're not conscious of.
Yes.
And so it's hard to teach all the different things of looking at waveforms and feeling pressure and all the different stuff that you're doing. It's nice to see this in different realms of people
for
doing
the
great things.
student, it's overwhelming.
It has to be.
You're
Yeah.
listening to the sat monitor. You're
Yes, you
feeling
can
the
hear the-
pulse.
yes.
You're palpating with your device.
It should
is-
feel a certain way. If it doesn't
Right.
feel a certain way,
Right.
which is next to impossible to impart how something is supposed to feel, except for just
Interesting.
going through that.
It's like lasers. So I've been using lasers for over 30 years.
Yes.
So young providers buy these lasers and they use them and they get results. And I have opinions about some of those results. But what I've come to learn is many times I'm listening to the sound of the pop or the noise.
Yes.
I'm looking, I know when I get to the papillary dermis, there's just a little bleeding, pinpoint bleeding. And different parts of the face or the neck are different skin, right? This is very thin,
Yes.
this is very thick, different tones, different textures. And so they buy this thing. They have no real world experience with it. A rep or a company gives them a chart and they start using it.
Yes.
And it is a thing in my world that frustrates me tremendously, but I can't control. Like I want to say, just go spend a year or two using that thing before you start using that
Yes.
thing. But,
That's right. That's right.
Or at least work with somebody who has
Before you
used
start
it.
charging people for it. So it's,
Well, yeah, I do think that too. But because patients believe it's much more simple than it really is.
well, and you hear laser, you think future. This is amazing. We're using technology. This is going to be incredible. NASA made this. This
Right.
is, oh man, we're getting all the best. But it's the right tool in the incorrect hands is still not going to get you the result that you would like. Now, let's focus in on the lasers just for a second, because pardon my ignorance, how are we using lasers? What is the technology there where we're using energy at that level? How is that really helping us when it comes to head and neck surgery or facial plastics?
Yeah, so I got to live through this transition because of my age. And what is it?
Early 30s.
Einstein, yeah. Light amplification and stimulation with emission of radiation, right? Laser. So it's a coherent beam in phase. It doesn't go out like a flashlight. So it's a tool. It can be a cutting tool or a coagulation tool or a thermal injury tool. In the early days, we used a CO2 laser, which is focused to water, to cut. In fact, I wrote a paper once on doing it for eye surgery. Turns out it was a terrible instrument for eye surgery because the scarring wasn't as nice as with a scalpel. But it was convenient for me because there was no bleeding and it was fast. So I got rid of that. In terms of ENT, we used it for tonsillectomies for a while because that seemed like it made sense. Turns out the depth of injury was deeper. It caused more pain after surgery. So we quit doing that. To make the point, and I could go on and on, but the point was, in the early days, we used it for everything because it was exciting, probably like AI.
Yeah, no, sure.
only to find that in some of the places we used it, probably not a great idea. We used it to make holes in the eardrum for little kids that needed tubes. Well, it turns out it would go through the eardrum and then it would hit something behind there, and it's hard to control a laser beam, right?
It's just, I don't recall the anatomy all that much, but it's not something that we really want to start focusing on. There's stuff back there.
There's stuff back there.
Pretty certain there's stuff.
Right. So we don't do that anymore. So
you live and learn, okay?
Right. And then we have different lasers. So then there were lasers tuned to red or black. You can remove hair, tattoo with them, and we're slowly finessing this world. But it, like you say, it's another source of energy. There's radio frequency. Sure. There's a pressure. You put pressure on a knife blade. That's a form of energy. It is a tool, like every other tool, and it needs to be used appropriately with some intelligence. Yeah. But it's not the end-all be-all. It's not going to, solve the world's problems.
And I'm convinced that there is no end-all be-all. It's a circumspect approach to virtually everything. Because I think about our forefathers in medicine that could diagnose so many different things with just a stethoscope that I couldn't even imagine hearing, and I'm semi-decent with the stethoscope and just the things that they could get. And so it's using the appropriate tools with your own sensation that really kind of creates. And once you fold into that patient's goals and what we're really looking for here, and you also don't. Unlike other surgeons, you are incorporating pharmacologic therapy too in various different ways. So, and that's, again, another unique pathway that you've kind of taken there. So you have to know pharmacology and all the other things that go along with that. Yeah. So, all right.
Chemistry.
Of the body. It takes us all back.
Chemistry of the body.
You're getting to be a chemical engineer. Tell me what do you think is the biggest issue facing ENT right now, current day?
So, broad question.
Yeah, indeed.
I'm embarrassed to say that I think the real challenge now is, for over 200 years, ENT and all specialties have gotten better and better and better. Yes. Because we've been blessed with excess resources to push the limits, because that takes resources of time, money, labs, energy, all kinds of things. Because the U.S. system of healthcare is changing the way it is, there are fewer resources on all those levels to keep pushing the envelope, right? Like, why can't I come up with a contact lens that I can drop in an ear that makes hearing perfect for a person with a hearing difficulty?
Yes.
Well, we can. I know we can. I've seen the data. But the problem is, that's not where the resources are going.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to go into as much detail as you want, but sure. I think resources are being drawn in different directions. It could be profit. Yeah. It could be administrative. It could be regulatory. It could be medical malpractice. It could be whatever it is, but the system really doesn't allow for that kind of forward thinking. So much so that in Florida, head and neck cancer, the reimbursement for very complex cases is not very high. So these patients with advanced head and neck cancers usually have to go to a tertiary care center.
Yes.
There's only a few of them in the state. There's a waiting list. People have to wait. There are many doctors, including myself, that are capable of much more aggressive surgery, but the system doesn't really empower that. As Milton Friedman once said, if you want more of something, reward it, and if you want less of something, don't put any money or effort into it.
We have to be careful about how we incentivize things, because you're going to get those results based on that.
Correct.
And yeah, it still seems like as we look towards a preventative healthcare eye on a lot of different ideas, we certainly focus a bit on preventative healthcare, because it's so much better to prevent things as opposed to treating them. But cancer is still a major issue. And in fact, is the epidemiology of head and neck cancer increasing?
Well, when I was younger, most head and neck cancer came from smoking and drinking.
Yeah.
Most cutaneous cancers came from sun and bad genes. Currently, the big upswing is in HPV-induced oropharyngeal cancers.
Yes.
Well, I'll go out on a limb. I don't know if the HPV vaccines have had a significant effect or not. They're relatively new in the world of, studying disease over lifetimes.
We have to get decades, yes.
Decades,
yes,
right.
yes.
But aside from that, the behavior patterns that create HPV cancers, I don't know that they've changed. I don't know that they're any better or worse than they were 100 years ago.
Are we going back to the selfish gene again? This is
yeah, but definitely we're seeing more of that disease. The good news is it's more easily treatable with less aggressive therapy than the older cancers we were seeing. And we haven't done away with alcohol and tobacco. And
we haven't?
That isn't going to stop.
No, not anytime soon. Do you think that there is an element, I don't know of screening for head and neck cancers that has come out. Do you think that there's some way where we're going to get to a screening protocol that we have for, say, mammography, colonoscopies, where we can find these things earlier and therefore make them more treatable and more curable, quote unquote?
So full disclosure,
yes.
I'm working on that peripherally right now. You didn't
I had no idea this. Yes,
no,
exactly.
Actually, nobody knows that. Yeah. But
okay.
We're trying to
We're
devise...
breaking stuff here on Medical Mastery.
Right,
yes,
right.
This is great.
So we're working with some pathologists and some companies to create a swab or brush that could be run over the tongue or the gum or the palate or the tonsil. Base of tongue and tonsil are the two worrisome sites right now that could help us make that diagnosis in the office easily. If that turns out to work, I don't know why you couldn't just sell it to the general public and let them screen themselves on whatever basis they feel empowered to do.
Yes.
But like I say, we're in the early stages of that study.
Well, I really like this idea. I like the idea of screening. I mean, yes, we always run the risk of false positives and the errors that come along with that. But, ultimately, again, with our ultimate goals in this, which is increasing meaning in patients, having them do more things, I think this could ultimately be a big boon to our society if we can find some way to screen for these head and neck cancers and catch them while small. So, so good on you for working and using that prodigious brain of yours towards doing that kind of thing. So, so let's talk about, we're talking about current day issues. Tell me what the future of ENT looks like. And let's say 10 years from now, what are things that we're going to be doing that are going to be different? And perhaps what are some things that are going to look a little bit more Cro-Magnon that we're doing nowadays that is going to be surprising that we had done at some point?
Wow. So, one of the ideas is that this whole vaccination controversy, whatever you want to say about it.
Is there a controversy? I didn't hear this.
Yeah, there is one. I'll fill you in later.
Right.
But
thank you.
One idea is that why couldn't we create a vaccine for cancer, right? That's not new, but it's never really moved.
Yes.
But with the advent of mRNA vaccines, however that goes, it begins to make sense biologically, as both of us can imagine, that, maybe you could create a vaccine for cancer.
Yes.
Head and neck cancer, we've not really seen any big leaps over my lifetime. The radiation doctors have added chemotherapy to the regimen, which seems to help.
Yes. Multiplicative help in terms of combinatorial, not just additive. It potentiates more cancer cell death. Yeah.
Hearing loss, maybe one day we can grow hearing cells and put them back in the inner ear. Yes. There is some research on that, and there has been some movement. But again, resources. Who funds that kind of research, and who's going to move it ahead?
Yes.
But I can see that. On the plastic side, I don't know if we're making big leaps and bounds. We just got more things. I mean, the facelift is still the gold standard.
Yes.
Strings, I personally don't think they work. To pull something up with a string and you undo it and it's undone.
Okay, yeah.
Fillers, they've been around for 30 years. It's just new versions of it.
Right.
Botox has been around for 30 years, no versions. Dermabrasion, which we used to do years ago, and then we did chemical peels, and now we use lasers. Different tools, basically same outcomes. What else? Thyroid disease. Now, thyroid disease has a potential to make big progress because we find things in the thyroid gland, as you know, and I say, well, maybe it's cancer, maybe it isn't.
Right.
We'll put a needle in it. If it's cancer, you got cancer. But if it's negative, maybe we missed it, maybe it was misread.
Right.
we're a little bit imprecise there, or at least not as precise as I think we might or could be. But I'm unaware of any transcutaneous technology that ferrets it out yet. It's still surgery. There are operations that are cuter now. You can go through the lip or the floor of the mouth to get the thyroid out with a robot.
Well, and patients love that because then you don't have a visible scar. Is
Well,
that?
I'm sure they do.
Yes.
But it's a little more dangerous. You're working in a deep, dark hole.
Of course.
It's a little more expensive. You got to have $1 million robot. And you know, a lot of that's controlled by insurance companies and Medicare, not the patient's desire or the doctor's decision.
Some of these, you know, oropharyngeal, tracheopharyngeal surgeries that you're doing, I mean, one of the names of the game when it comes to surgery is exposure, is being able to see what you're doing.
Right.
That is a very delicate area to try and get exposure to for you to see what you're doing. So
Well, I've done it both ways. I'm of the school where we used to make an incision and open it up and get back there. And then a couple of years ago, we did TORS, transoral robotic surgery, for a couple of years. And we did it with a robot down the throat. And the robot for us is heads and tails better than, you know, what we had.
yes.
The problem now is FDA approval with the new robots. But there are centers in the country doing it, and they do a very good job.
So the robotic surgery, it's better because the tension that it can hold, the precision with which it moves, the visualization that you can get out of that.
I put my head against this, and 2 or 3 millimeters down here becomes a 70-inch big screen TV. So when I cut around a tumor, I can see around the tumor. There was a device that was invented that would take the smoke of our cut with a Bovie and tell us if there were cancer cells in it. Now, you'd think every hospital in America would have that machine, right? It makes perfect sense.
Yes.
I don't know what happened. I don't know whether it was litigation, cost.
Right.
I don't know what stopped it.
I mean, that sounds like an amazing invention right
Yes.
there, and just wonderful insight that we can have while doing that.
Right.
And it leads me to think of, you know, my thoughts about the cure for cancer is going to be not so much that we prevent, although that would be nice. It's going to be the second we have that cancer cell, the second that it escapes its bounds of senescence, then it's going to emit some sort of protein signal that we're going to catch. May even catch it on the watch, our smartwatch.
It does. Your killer NK cells kill,
Yes.
right?
Well, so that's it, is that once we have that thing, because we're forming cancers all the time.
Right.
And our body's immune system is killing them
Right.
all the time, which is great.
Right.
But then occasionally one slips by those bonds. And so it's once that happens, we get some sort of alert and we get an injection of super NK cells that come in and kill it. And that ends up taking care of our
That was
cancer risk.
another technology that I don't know where it went. You would biopsy a tumor, you'd send it to a lab, they would make some kind of biologic agent that would identify it and kill it. You know, like I-131 for the thyroid, right?
Yes.
So you know the thyroid takes up iodine, so you attach a radioactive tag to it, you give it to them, and you get a radioactive tag.
And it just soaks there in
and
the
it just
thyroid. It's
destroys
not going other
it, right? It
places.
doesn't go everywhere,
Yeah.
right? I cannot imagine these things are not reasonably developed. But again, it's a function. So if you have a free market system, there's financial incentive to create these things,
That's
right?
exactly right. That's exactly right.
If you have a system that's not a free market system, then what's the incentive?
Which we do, in some sense, have a bit more of a top-down system where a government payer essentially says, this is what you're going to get paid for this, as opposed to this is the market that I bring to the table and this is what I think that it's worth from the bottom up. And we have our own thoughts about economic systems and how they work, I guess.
Right.
So, so let's talk about something that, is there something special, what I like to call this is about your organ. Now your organ is very large, and that sounded weird. The head and neck cancers here that you deal with, the thyroid, the oropharynx, is there something that the layperson doesn't know about this, something that's really interesting that maybe has evolved over time that...
Yeah, a layperson knows nothing about it till it happens to them.
I don't know very much about it, so yes.
I mean, it's true of all of us, right? Until we're faced with it, then it becomes important. Is there something they don't know about it?
Is there a fun fact about the thyroid that that I would be like, oh, well, that's interesting dinner conversation, that my wife would be annoyed that I brought it up?
I feel I rarely am at a loss for words. In fact, make sure and record this.
Yeah. We'll edit over this. Okay, we'll say something erudite out of this.
But so here's some cool facts. So most people, by the time they go to their grave, have thyroid nodules. Most people, when they're born, have no thyroid nodules. So we all develop these thyroid nodules.
Yes.
The trick is, for the small percentage where they're cancer, and then the even smaller percentage where they're really bad cancers, we do a lot of surgery. And it annoys me that we can't do a better job of finding that.
Yes.
And figuring that out. And I don't know what the answer to that is.
You know what I really love about hearing about this too is because it kind of speaks to your true altruism here in that, taking out thyroid nodules, I don't want to say that it's a chip shot, but for most ENT surgeons, that's a relatively easy thing.
Yes.
And it's, it's food on the table. But you're looking for, I want a more specific look at this. I don't want to do just things to patients just for the sake of sending our daughters to college. I want to do things that are going to help them overall and not hurt them.
Yeah, that's the advantage of being a 62-year-old surgeon. I don't have to do anything anymore, thank God. But your point is a good one, and that goes to the heart and soul of everyone, right? Like, what is your motivation for everything you do in life?
That's right.
My daughter asked me, she's like, Dad, what is this all about? She's 19. Everything's a question, and it's simple. It's to help other people. It sounds cliche.
It does, but
it's
so true.
The most true thing. Nobody goes to their grave thinking about their car, their house, their clothes or shoes, whatever. They think about their family. What have they done for the people they love? How have they touched other people's lives? I mean, in my humble opinion, it's the reason why good leaders tend to be older. Yes. It's if for no other reason, it's because once more of your life is behind you than in front of you, you become a much kinder and loving person, I think.
Yeah, I think, and it adds a lot of reverence to, we kind of go throughout our career as it evolves, and from this place of, can I do this, to look at the things that we can do and the reverence for that. And it's a really holy position, I say, to take patients when they're at a very vulnerable point. I mean, they're coming to your office. Yeah. It's not that they want to be there. It's that they feel, wow, I need somebody to help me out here because I've got something going on. And you need to know all this, and you need to keep in mind your altruism of how you're going to help these people. It's just, it's
well, it's so funny in a way, because say I do a nose job and a young girl comes in and she goes, yeah, you did this a year ago, but I'm unhappy with this. And I said, well, leave it alone. Well, I don't want to leave it alone. I said, listen, the risk outweighs the benefit.
Yes.
I know it bothers you, and I'm not diminishing that.
Right.
But doing more has a potential to have some very bad outcomes.
Yes.
And it's not ego. I'm happy to revise anybody. I want people happy.
Yeah.
And they go and they say terrible things, like whatever. But there's a price to be paid for being a real humanist. It's not, the cartoons, the good person always wins, but that is not the reality of our world.
No. And it's challenging. You're not necessarily rewarded for that financially, but it's the only thing that we can do, right?
When you can sleep.
Yes.
That's the other part of it that's good.
Sleep is helpful.
Less sleep problems, right?
Tell me about, AI is a huge buzzword for us.
Yeah.
I like to think about it. I like to get smart people's opinions about that. How is AI going to affect your world, do you think, in terms of medicine and healthcare?
So, not being a smart person, but doing the best I can with your question.
You hide that very well, if that's the case.
I think AI is going to be a huge part of healthcare. Mm-hmm. I think there will be a day you walk into Walgreens and you sit in a booth and an AI asks you questions, and without examining you, other than perhaps blood pressure and O2 sat and looking at your pupils and whatever, it will make a decision. And it probably will be right 90% of the time.
Yes,
And
yes.
a little bottle will fall out, and it probably
Maybe more
work
so than humans.
well. So this is my aside. So we had COVID, and we were doing these online visits, these virtual visits.
Yes.
So afterwards, I saw a ton of throat cancer because everybody with a sore throat for the last 3 weeks that got on their virtual visit was diagnosed with sore throat and given antibiotics, and it didn't get better. And so there was this upsurge of very advanced throat cancers. I thought about writing an article, and I thought that'd be a terrible article to write because nobody's going to like me after that. But, you know, it's like having a 3-foot tablecloth for a 10-foot table. There is no perfect answer for the whole table.
Yeah, that's right.
And you slide
That's
it
right.
around. And I think that will work for 90% of the population. In terms of surgery, I don't know why AI couldn't do surgery, read x-rays, do anesthesia. They already have computers that'll do anesthesia.
Yes.
It's just, it's funny. I think humans still trust humans more than machines much of the time. There is value in the human touch. You know, if you walk over and you do this, that has huge value. Huge value.
That had huge value to me right there.
Right, right.
So,
Don't say it out loud.
Okay.
But I think that, I think it will be here. I think it will help. I think it will hurt. I think different societies will deal with it differently. We are the richest society, so we'll probably use it the most and the quickest. And I don't know. You know, I don't even know if medical education of the last 100 years is the right education.
boy, it's going to throw the book out. I mean, I think you're going to have a whole new way of how you really go through a differential diagnosis. I mean, that's almost going to be done for you.
Yeah.
You're going to have some clinical acumen to be able to sift through that, certainly. But I mean, many of the things that I feel like we spend a lot of time via lecture and inculcation to ourselves may go the way of the dodo because
Right.
it's wasted brain space for that kind of thing that AI can bring to the table and say, can pull up the netter's anatomy right here in 3 dimensions while we're trying to, correspond with what you're doing.
We were talking before we did this.
Yes.
I have a daughter. She's thinking about medical school, and I'm not really keen on it because I don't think you're going to need as many physicians as we have now. I think ARNPs do a good job for what, most of them for what they do.
Yes.
And there's still currently a role for physicians, but I think everything is changing quickly.
Yes.
And I think the number of years that you and I put in and the amount of training we put in is probably not as necessary now as it was. And I think there are much more cost-effective ways of providing the care we provide. And it doesn't, it's not, for selfish reasons, it's not really great to say this, but I just think it's going to change.
Well, I really appreciate this. First of all, a nuanced take that is not 100% sanguine, not 100% cynical. You're not pulling the ladder up from those behind you. You're simply saying, like, this is how I read the tea leaves of what's coming up here. And it's coming quickly.
Yes.
I mean, the newest, whether it's Colossus and Elon Musk or other things, these are going to have extraordinary computing power that is going to be writ large in almost every single facet of human ingenuity and knowledge and intervention. And it's got to come to healthcare.
Well, I can't even imagine. So quantum computers, right?
Yes.
Instead of linear Boolean thinking,
Yes.
they go down many paths simultaneously. So imagine, I can't even wrap my head around this. So you have this AI system, and I don't have my head around AI yet because a lot of intelligence is rote memorization or logic trees or memory processes. But assuming it's intelligent, it can come up with new thought, not repetitive thought. And then you run it through one of these quantum computers. It is so profound. I don't know how many people can get their head around it.
Right.
It
And
is,
I don't think we've evolved the ability to be able to comprehend what that really means.
Right.
And so it's going to be outside of our bounds.
right. That's what's terrifying.
Yeah.
I think it will be outside of our bounds.
Yeah.
I mean,
But hopefully, implicit in that wave of whatever that may be is going to be a boon for healthcare and disease states and humans being a lot healthier.
Yes.
So tell me about what are your recommendations for people that are going into the field that have said, you know what, come hell or high water, I'm going to be a doctor. What do you tell those that are in the early part of their career?
So learn the medicine, do all those things, but learn beyond that. Study the culture,
Yes.
the politics, the economy, the types of jobs there are. Those are things that you and I never did because it was a one track to one place. Mm-hmm. But because of all the things we've spoken of, you have to be more of a Renaissance man or woman than ever before. The kids know it better than we do.
Yeah.
I personally, we have medical students here, and I've stuck my head in their room and given them my opinion. Told
Whether
them
or not they wanted it.
Whether or not they want it. That's the beauty of, my situation and theirs. But I've offered to talk to them more about it. You're somewhat overwhelmed if you've got to learn just the basics. It's so much.
It's a lot.
And it's more than what I had to learn. I mean, my understanding of neuroanatomy was based on neuroanatomy in the, 80s, not what it is now.
The anatomy hasn't changed that much. I just want to be clear. That's
yeah,
not bad.
I didn't know what transmitters there were and where things happened. But anyway, I don't know to what level they study or learn. I don't know anything about that. But I think, fortunately or unfortunately, they need to broaden those thoughts. And I think their education is polluted by political garbage.
Yes.
I'm not even going to say what it is. People can figure it out. Mm-hmm. Just treat people kindly and lovingly. And,
yes.
We're different. We're the same. I mean, it's very complex, but we're all bright enough to figure that out. Just be nice to one another. But, the hardest part is figuring out when you're a 19-year-old, 20-year-old, what do you want to do? How do you want to live? You don't have enough life experience to really get your head around it. You saw your parents and people around you. So whatever path you pick, it's the right one. Make sure you pick it for the most honest reasons. Because you and I both, we spend 80% of our life working. So you might as well love it.
That's right.
And then part of that's a decision.
Well, and I think you had alluded to it earlier. Make sure you go to sleep at night.
Yes.
There's nothing like a warm bed and a rock solid alibi.
Yes.
But either way, that ability to say, I did something good today and I gave it my best. That is worthwhile.
Yes.
So let's talk for a second here about, many people will know you in this community. Many people that will be listening to this podcast will know of you. Several will not. Hopefully we'll get a lot of new listeners.
Somebody's going to listen to this?
The 3 people that are listening, it's all my family that's going to be listening to us, as a matter of fact.
I told you, thank God I watched Talladega Nights to learn what to do with my hands. Right.
So there's many people that know you that may not know how profound of an impact you have for our medical community in a lot of different ways. Certainly the things that you do on a day-to-day basis as a frontline infantry. Certainly your business acumen and how you've been creating a practice here that's been stalwart for a long period of time.
Thank you.
But I think a greater thing that not enough people know about is your participation and leadership in the Florida Medical Association. And I've kind of gotten a bit more of a crash course in the FMA via the Emerald Coast Medical Association, and kind of gotten to see a little bit more about how the sausage is made. And one of the things that has taken me is how much time and effort you put into certainly the physicians in our area, but also the physicians all across the state of Florida, and they will never know the amount of effort that you put into this, the weekends that you spend going to these meetings, the times that you have to politic with several different people, all in the name of trying to get Florida physicians to be able to practice the way that they want to practice. So if you don't mind taking a little bit to tell us about your participation in the Florida Medical Association and really what that entails, because I think it's been really one of the things that people don't know enough about you.
So I don't want to talk about me, but I'm going to talk about the process.
I'm good with the process.
Okay. So politics is terrible but necessary. Mm-hmm. Being part of politics is vocational insurance. And I said that decades ago, and I still believe it.
Yes.
And whether you're a builder or a teacher or a physician or a nurse, state laws and federal laws affect every aspect of your vocation, good or bad.
They matter.
They matter. And in the same breath, I will tell you, despite whatever my own political thoughts are, both sides of the aisle matter.
Yes.
And neither side is always right or always wrong. So you have to be honest enough to understand that foundation. Now, politics, as my friend Andy says, the answer is money. Now ask me the question.
What's the question? Yes.
So no politician survives without money. So as a member of the FMA, the Florida Medical Association PAC, it is, in my humble opinion, the most important part of the Florida Medical Association, whose mission is to try to help physicians do a good job for their patients.
Yes.
And for many decades, physicians controlled healthcare. The hospital was an extension of our exam room. We took care of patients, they went to the hospital. Whether the hospital made money or not was irrelevant. If they made money, it went back into salaries or research. If they didn't make money, we asked society for tax dollars to keep it alive. But that was its goal.
Right.
That has changed over time.
The locus was the physician. That was
Right.
the point. Yes.
Right.
And that's changed.
And the trust between the patient and the fewer people you have between the physician and the patient, the less expensive healthcare is. So it was the most honest transaction.
Yes.
So for a whole bunch of reasons, which I will not go into, that has become expensive, complicated, and too many people stand between me and my patient. So 30 years ago, I embarked on this journey to try to fix that because I'm young and happy and naive. But I feel strongly that it's a good mission. And so most of the solutions happen at the state level. So for me, the state level is most important. I can't change Medicare or what happens in Washington. And that requires relationships, meeting politicians and developing relationships over years or decades. It requires finding money to help them get elected. It requires being honest enough and intelligent enough to use their time carefully, because once you become a congressman or a congresswoman, your time becomes so important for that period of time that you're in office.
Yes.
And there's a dance and a nuance to it. And I've had many people teach me, Neil Dunn for many years, George Gaynor for many years, yes. Congressman Neil Dunn, right?
Yes.
A lot of people in my life who have educated me, and we've been effective. We've done many good things, and we've failed at many things. But my peers will say, well, Skip, all that money and time you spend on that, nothing happens. I tell them that's not true. We fight pirates off all the time. There's always somebody wanting to do something that they're not capable of doing or shouldn't be doing. And it's not pride. It's legitimately trying to take care of patients, because patients really don't know what they don't know.
They don't.
And it's our
impossible
job.
for them
it's
to know.
impossible.
Yes.
It is our job to try to find a healthy path for them that's in their best interest. Yes. And so, yes, I've been on this mission for many years. It does take many weekends. It does take time. I enjoy watching the sausage be made. The older I get, the more sophisticated I become.
Yes.
The older I get, the more people I've worked with for years might go, well, man, you've just become a little bit wishy-washy. It is not that. To achieve your goals, you've got to compromise always. It's like a family.
Yes.
Right? I don't get what I want.
Right.
I just want what my wife wants. As long as I achieve that, we're good.
Yes.
Right?
As long as you compromise and get what she wants.
And when I was 20, it was about what I wanted, right? So you get a little smarter. You have to stay true to what you believe and remind yourself why you're doing what you're doing. You can get lost in the process, but you have to stay focused.
So having been to a couple of delegates meetings and seeing, live writ large how some of the sausage is made in person and participating in that, I found it reassuring to see you smiling more than I ever see you in those kind of situations. You love the whole environment. You love the
do.
back and forth. You love the insight.
do.
You love the intrigue and all this stuff. And it's really, that's wonderful for us who get a lot of benefit. And that's what I want to kind of impress upon people is that I don't think you know how much people like Skip Dobby are working for you behind closed doors, thanklessly, spending, I'm not going to say, but certainly a number with a comma in it, amount of money to try and ensure us doing the things that we get to do. So if we can come across with a message there, or why don't you say, what is something that you would say to our physicians in this community about how we could make things better for us via the FMA?
Well, the simplest answer is make a donation to the Political Action Committee. The next tier up would be, I try to get a newsletter out 4 times a year with data in it.
Yes.
If you have a special interest or special knowledge or a story or a feeling that can help patients navigate this fiasco, or other physicians help navigate for their patients through this fiasco, reach out. At my level, I can move it as far as I can move it. Those things that go to the governor's desk or a legislator's desk get very little movement because there's a lot of pieces hitting their desk.
Yes.
But Bay County is my priority. Secondarily, the state is my priority. Yes. And I will push it as hard as I can. Yeah,
and again, having seen you work on these things, I see you push with the deftest of touches, and it's really it's impressive to see live. So thank you very much for doing that on behalf of all physicians here in the Emerald Coast Medical Association. All right, so now I'm going to hit you with a little bit of rapid fire stuff here, okay, just to finish up. So, who is the smartest person in history?
Stephen Hawkins.
So very good choice. Black hole radiation. Totally profound insight that he had while unable to do those calculations anywhere written down.
Well, it's even bigger than that, right? Like he suffered some life challenges, never slowed him down.
Yes.
Always had a sense of humor.
That's right.
Wrote a book about a profound concept in language that the layperson could understand.
Yeah, good answer. If we can live to 1,000 as humans, should we do it?
No.
Okay. At night, do you want it too cold or too hot in your house?
Too cold.
Oh, love it. That's the only right answer, by the way.
Thank you.
What is one thing you would tell yourself if you could talk to yourself starting in medical school right now?
Be kind to everyone.
Yeah, I kind of alluded to this earlier, and so I'm going to give you one more swipe at this. What is one current medical treatment or therapy we are going to shudder that we used in 15 years from now?
Wow. Electroconvulsant therapy.
Yeah. I like that, and I would like to speak to some of our psychiatric colleagues about that, because I'm not certain I fully understand the mechanism of action of that, and sometimes that helps me to kind of comprehend things.
Sadly, I got to tell you, they usually do it under anesthesia, so it's not dramatic.
Sure.
And two, it does work for a lot of diseases.
It does. That's it. I mean,
it works.
You can't argue with results.
No, you can't argue with. But surely we've got something better than that.
It's flipping some switch somewhere that we could do more precisely.
I look at it like cardioversion of the brain.
Yes. That's a good thought about how it is. And cardioversion is very effective and actually very safe, by the way. Now, last thing, tell me what books you're reading.
Right now, The Path to Serfdom. It's a terrible book. I wouldn't recommend it. It was written during World War II.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a discussion of political systems. Mm-hmm. I kind of enjoy it. I don't know that there's anything new or profound in it. The Road to Serfdom, that was it. The Road to Serfdom. And but it's a hard read.
Yeah, it's a slog to get through.
It's just slow and redundant, and it's given me a headache.
Yeah.
The World According to Garp is a much better book to read.
Okay.
If you want something a little more light.
All right.
But that's an older one.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Okay. Where do we find you?
So this is the plug moment.
Yes,
I'm going to exploit
yes.
it fully.
Do.
I got to think of what our office number is.
People ask me
I'm
what
gonna
my
tell
office
you
number, and
my
I don't know.
cell number,
We
right?
can put an office number on
Gulf
this.
Coast Facial Plastics and ENT Center, and 850-784-7722. Wow, I never call myself.
That was amazing. That was amazing. yeah.
And I think we have a website, Gulf Coast Facial Plastics. I don't know what our website is. Chris is going to have a
Chris is
heart
going to help us
attack.
out. No, he's
Put
going
it
to
in
help
there,
us out.
please.
Yes.
I don't know.
No,
Yeah,
we
I
can
don't
take
know.
care of that.
Thank you.
So come to see Skip if you've got any sort of facial plastic ENT issues that you have, or if you just want to sit and talk politics for a long time. I have some of the best conversations with you. I just love it. Every single time we get to just sit around and do it, whether we're being recorded or not, I find you to be one of the most insightful and charismatic humans that have ever come around. So thank you for being you. Thank you for being a stalwart clinician and physician and all the other things and teacher. Thank you for being a friend, and thank you for being here.
So I have a request. If we
please.
do this again, we got to have the kids with us.
Oh,
this
that'd
would be
fun.
way more fun with all the girls.
Yes. Well, they'll be so dismissive of us trying to say something insightful and just be like, whatever.
Well, you've got 3 girls in your life.
Two that we know of.
Well, 2 children.
Yes.
And your wife.
Yes, that's true.
And then my bride, and I've got 2 little girls.
Yes.
So it would be much more fun with all those
It would be a lot of
kids.
fun. And again, our opinions wouldn't really matter a whole lot.
As they
Nor
shouldn't.
should it. Nor
Right.
should it. Okay. So, well, again, thank you for everything that you do, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Don.
All right.
All right.